I'm Lorenzo. I'm a senior big data engineer at Agile Lab, and I'm also the product owner for WiBoost, the product that we are developing right now. And today, I'm going to talk to you about our take on data contracts, on data mesh, and in the most general idea of data contracts. So whatever I say today is not written in stone, it could change, is our take, and it's driven by all the experiences that we had working with a lot of companies trying to implement data mesh. So let's start from the beginning. So what is a contract? Why us, as society, decided one day that we needed contracts? And a society, what it is an ecosystem of people not trusting each other but exchanging value. So the key concept here is not trusting. So even if we are a society and we cooperate together, every part of this society needs to be sure that every other part is compliant. Otherwise, if there is a lack of trust, everyone will start doing whatever they want to achieve what they need. So, a contract is a signed declaration of guarantee of value exchange to generate trust, yes, but it's just a way for us to say, okay, let's cooperate, but let's write it down. So if you violate it, then tomorrow I can come to you and say, you sent me the wrong data, you sent me the wrong ideas, and we decided 2 years ago that you should have sent me these different kind of things. So a contract in the real world is just a way to exchange value, having trust as the foundation of it. And in the data mesh, how this is going to be implemented or how this is going to be introduced. Let's first of all think about 3 key concepts of data mesh. So one of the first key concepts of data mesh is that the data mesh is a centralized ecosystems of individuals. So there are different individuals, different practitioners that are creating data, consuming data, and the data value that is exchanged can happen in a million different ways. So data mesh is not a technology, data mesh is not a platform, data mesh is a way of working. So you can have a technology today that tomorrow will change. You can have a team of people today that in 10 years will be different people. So what happens is that the data mesh platform needs to guarantee that all these practitioners and all the technologies cooperate together in order to bring value and to exchange value to our company. So it doesn't matter what kind of things you're trying to do with your data mesh. The important thing is having someone that guarantees that everyone is doing what they're required to do. But here comes the difficult part. So if every data product, every practitioner is an independent people, is an independent piece of this data mesh, how can we govern the change management? So maybe today your data mesh is working very well, but today some new GDPR rules happen, some new law is introduced, and we need to change something. We cannot avoid evolving our data mesh. And how can we govern this without breaking the ideas of data mesh? Also, we have service level agreements. So in order to have business continuity, even in the analytical world, we want to grant service level agreement. And how are we going to guarantee this if we have independent people, independent technologies, and whatsoever? And the last thing is, how is it possible to create something that is governed and that we can trust without turning it to the far west? What I mean by this? If we put there a contract, a rule, what happens is that human nature tells you, okay, if this contract is too strict, I want to avoid it. I will find a backdoor. I will find someone that I can send an email to that will deploy in production, avoiding all the governance platform. And this is true even in our society. We find ways of going around contracts. So why shouldn't it be true even for the data mesh? So let's talk about what we think a good definition of data contract could be. So a data contract is, as we said, as a parallel to the real world, just an agreement to regulate how we exchange data between one another. And in our first draft, we say, okay, it's composed by some components, and then it evolved during the years, and this is our take right now. A data contract should be composed of technical information, so you should know what kind of technical aspects we will provide you as producers. So, for example, we will provide you a table with this schema, with this meaning of each column and whatsoever. We have semantic information. So even if this column is called customer ID, what is its semantic business? It's the global customer, it's the financial customer, what kind of foreign key I have between this data and all the others. Service level agreement. So if I say that my data is up to date every day at midnight, I mean that I want my customer to expect that every day at midnight and 1 minute they will be able to consume newer data. And data quality expectations. Of course, if I say this table has null values that are less than 1%, I must be compliant with it. Then a data contract, in order to be reliable, must be registered in a platform. So it should not be something that I say, okay, I'm a producer, you are the consumer, we agree, we have that contract, and we store it somewhere and we forget about it. No. We want to have a common place where all the companies can see that we have a contract in place, and if I'm not respecting it, then I need to be doing some renewal, some work in order to get back to be compliant with it. It should be automatically enforced. Why is that? For the reason I told you before. If I trust you to be in a position where you are compliant with my contract, then I should have a meta contract, you know, and then a meta contract again. The only point where I can say, okay, my contract, I am 100% sure that no one will infringe, is if we have a central point where all the company should pass through in order to get the data, produce the data, consume the data. It should be inspectable, comprehensible, and transparent. One of the biggest problems that we have right now is contracts are so difficult that you need someone else to read it and make you understand it. So one of the key points of a data contract should be that everyone should agree on the value of it by just looking at it. So it shouldn't be something extremely complex. It should be something that you see the value right away. And it should be evolvable and versionable. As I was telling you before, no contract lives more than a couple of months, I would say. You will always be under evolutions, changing, even for reasons that are out of your control, like, as I said before, a new GDPR enforcement. What is not a data contract? Data contract is not an API. An API could be part of a data contract. So you could have APIs that lets you demonstrate everything that I told you before, but having an API in place doesn't mean that you have a data contract. It's not about schema versioning, otherwise it would have been called schema versioning. Schema versioning could be something that is inside the data contract, but is not everything that you need to have a data contract. And we saw a lot of companies said, okay, we have a data contract, is this table, its schema is a data contract. No, a data contract is much more than that. It's an agreement between two different parties. So what happens is usually that a data producer defines all the technical info, semantic, SLA, data quality, and they agree with the data consumers that the expectations that they set up are up to date with what they expect. So this is where the agreement comes. So if I say, okay, I will give you an updated version every night at midnight, and they tell me, wait, I need near real-time data. I cannot go with having it updated every night. We are at a point where we are making clear what they expect and what we can provide, and we can decide, okay, the data contract is this one, and we will not have bad discoveries at runtime. Okay, I expected it to be this, I expected this to be that. So we can work together, a producer and a consumer team, to create this contract, and we can register it in a platform. The platform, again, will be in charge of enforcing it. So every time that someone is breaking the contract, then the platform is showing me this. And we talked about the life cycle of data contract, because a data contract is not written in stone, as I told you, it will evolve. So after we define a first draft of a contract, we will deploy something that is using that data contract. And what happens? A lot of the time, we will say, okay, the table, the topic, the files, wherever, are compliant with the contract. But we could also say, no, you cannot deploy that table, you cannot create that topic, no, you cannot put those files there, because they are violating the contract. So we are missing something. So we are, as a platform, blocking you from creating something that is out of the specification of the contract. And what happens is that you could also make a breaking change. So you say in your contract, among your technical informations, we have 10 columns. Tomorrow, you have only 8. Okay, the contract is still valid, but you are adding a breaking change. So the platform should tell you, okay, even if your data contract is correct, formally, you are breaking the agreement you had before with your consumers. So it will stop you from updating that data contract. And of course, after you created the topic, the files, the table, data will start flowing into it. Data will start flowing, and so we need to validate not only at creation time, the data contract, but also at runtime. And what happens is usually there are 2 ways of enforcing this. Those are not the only ways, but the most implemented, I will say. We could have a circuit breaker. So the data contract is violated, I will stop you from consuming it from it again. Or we could raise a red flag. So everywhere in the platform, everyone will see, okay, this is something that is generating data, but violating the data contract. So consume it at your own risk. So in the end, if you think about it, an output port, in its wider definition, is actually a data contract. Because what is an output port? Is an interface that is providing you read-only data and read-optimized data for your consumers. And you should not think about an output port to be just a table or just a topic of events or just an API. It's much more than that. It's the table, its description, its semantic tags, all of the definition of the semantic linking between other tables. So it's much more complex than that. And it is compliant with everything that I told you before. The cool thing is that since a data product could have multiple output ports, we could have multiple data contracts for a single data product. So we could say, for example, this data product is exposing customer data, and we want to have a near real-time data contract, but we want to also have a data at rest data contract. They will have different SLA, they will have different values of the columns. For example, one could have masked fields, one could have a lot of joins with other data. And in the end, they will be all consumable by different subjects. But coming back to what I said before, I didn't tell you anything about how to solve these problems. I just told you what a data contract we think is. So let me show you our take on these problems. And in our product, WiBoost, that I will show you, we decided, okay, let's have a pragmatical take on this. And I will show you what I mean and how we are going to solve all of this. I had a wonderful demo, but I needed to have internet connection, and today is a little bit bumpy, so I will just show you the slides. So how to evolve a data contract? So in WiBoost, you have a data product. In this case, is the cash flow data product. You have a descriptor that tells you everything that is inside of it. And you can see here you have different things about it, all these components. And whenever you want to deploy your data product, and by deploying a data product, I mean deploy it and all of its components, you have to pass through test. And what is this test? This test is a set of policies that you define at platform level, and we are checking that all of these are passed before letting you start your CI/CD pipeline. So if you don't pass all of these policies, the platform, the central platform, WiBoost in this case, will prevent you from deploying something. So for example, we have different policies, and we have breaking change policies and breaking change with approvals. And you can see that both of them are failing right now. So I can go in here and see why this is failing. So for example, we are preventing people from deploying this data product because we had 11 columns before, and now we have only 10. So consumers of this data product could go to one of its output ports and say, okay, I expected this to have an external ID. Where is it? So to prevent this, we have a policy that is checking that all the columns that were there before for an output port are still there. So I can go to my output port. In this case, there's a SQL port. I can go into the data contract editor. I can make my change, and I can request for approvals. This will send a notification to all the consumers of my output ports, and they will be notified that instead of having 11 columns, I will just use 10 because for GDPR reasons I cannot send this kind of information. They can approve this kind of breaking change, or they can deny it. So if they deny it, okay, I cannot do anything. I have to agree with them again. So I have to create a new data contract by setting again the expectation, what we can do and what you can. But if they agree, then we have all the approvals. We can go back here, and now you see that the breaking change with approvals is going to be okay. So then the platform is letting me deploy it. So I updated my data contract with them with just a couple of clicks. Of course, if we need to define a new data contract, it takes more time because we have to agree again. And agreeing on something is the tough part, I would say, of everything that I was showing you before. And the other part that I would like to show you is how to monitor this at runtime. So everything that I showed you so far is at deploy time. As I told you, we are preventing you from deploying something that is violating our data contract. But since you have something that is already in place, how are we monitoring and checking that everything that is passing through those output ports is compliant with our data contract? In here, in WiBoost, you can see all the lineage of this subset of data products, for example. So you can see here that we are reading from a mainframe. They have different data contracts exposed. Those data products are reading from it. So you can see all the lineage in it. And what happens is that since we do not care about technologies, we do not care about platforms, this could be completely different things. This is a SAP database. This could be a Kafka topic. This could be a Dremio table. This could be whatever. It is just a data contract. I don't care what kind of technology it's behind it. It's the idea of data contracts and the fact that we are expecting a contract that we set up and that we can trust and rely on. So here, source and operational system expose data contracts towards the analytical world. So what happens is, for example, that my database has a data contract with a table, and it contains all the things that I defined before. I have then other projects, in this case data products, that are consuming data from it. And as you can see, a single source system can have multiple data contracts. As I told you before, we could have different kind of output ports. One with live data, one with old data, one with different kind of data exposed, like files or topics. And WiBoost automatically highlights every time a data contract is broken. Why? Because as I showed you before, we have policies that are periodically scheduled to check if someone is violating them. So in this case, for example, we see that we have a data contract with a breaking change. So it means that we have something that is not compliant with our data contract. And so from here, I can see that all the data products that are reading data from that data contract are going to ingest wrong data. So since we said that data contracts are composed of 4 pillars, service level agreement, semantic information, technical information, data quality, by clicking on a data contract, I can see right away how it is composed. So I can see the SLA. So for example, I know that I'm granting a 99.9% uptime of this data contract. I can see that the interval of change is 1 second. I can write here the terms and conditions. So everything related to service level agreement. Also technical information, so my schema, what is inside my schema. And I can, from here, see at what level we have a warning. So as I was showing you before, the breaking change that we had was on schema columns and data types. So from there, I can see that I have a warning on schema columns and data types. So if I am a consumer and I would like to start reading data from it, I can see that right now, it is not in the position of granting me the right data because it is violating the contract. If I click on details over there, I will go back to the policy page and will see all the details and everything that is helping me understand what the problem is, so I can call the right people in order to sort it out. And each data contract that we create inside WiBoost is generated from a template, and different companies have different templates, so we are allowing them to define whatever they want. And this, for example, is an example of a push data contract. What we mean by that? We mean that, in this example, a company creates a Kafka topic, and then we put a policy, a runtime policy, on top of it. This runtime policy is checking that the data that is flowing through that Kafka topic is compliant with our data contract. If it is compliant, it will go to the right Kafka topic, so the one that people can start reading from. And if data is wrong, it will go on a dead letter queue, let's say, so another topic that you can later process. This is a way of implementing data that is pushed by the source to the data contract. And it is very clear for consumers what they can do in order to get fresh data. And we are respecting the contract breaking that I was showing you before. If you remember before, I told you we have 2 ways of saying, okay, a data contract is broken at runtime, what we can do. We could say it is broken, that's it. People will say, okay, I'm not 100% sure I want this kind of data. Or we can enforce this by saying only good data will pass through. Bad data will not be available. So this is a way of implementing what I was telling you before. I am stopping this data contract from publishing new data up until it is fixed. Again, this is just saying that we can implement it however you want. This is just a concept, and whatever you have underneath should be in line with these principles. So if you want to have multiple topics, if you have files, if you have different approaches, you can do whatever you want. And of course, you can check the data contract declaration. So in here you have everything that we agreed upon. So this is another not compliant data contract. In this case, we have a different way that this is implemented. So for example, we have another template, and we call this data at rest. And data at rest means that we have, for example, a Dremio view on top of different files and databases and whatever it is underneath. So in this case, we have data at rest. We are not pulling or pushing data anyway. We just have a view on top of it. So the policy is acting, and the maximum things that this policy can do is marking this as being not compliant. In fact, in this case, we have a problem with timeliness. Timeliness here is 1 day, but maybe this contract did not respect that. So what happens is, if we go back, is that we have 2 different ways of implementing this. In this case, we just marked this as being violating the data contract, and every data product reading from it will be affected by it. Or, let me just get back a little bit. In this case, we had a broken data contract, but also a broken link. It means that data is not passing through in this case because it's going to the dead letter queue that I told you before. So it is not only broken data contract is also a broken link in this case. Yeah, I think this is it. Thank you very much. Do you have any question? Yes, please.
My name is Mani Janaki Raman. I work for London Stock Exchange Group. The question is around the maturity of the data contract. When you are initially forming the data mesh organization, you might not have the maturity. So does the data contracts mature over time, or how does it work?
So what I show you today is an example of what you could implement as what I told you, technological information, service level agreement, semantic. So I don't think you need to create a big bang from scratch to all these kind of things. You can start with simpler data contracts with just check, for example, technical details, technical information. Let's see how the company reacts to it. Are they going to comply with it? How many times people are complaining or finding a way around it? And then, when that is settled, then you can add more things, like, for example, semantics, like service level agreement. I think that starting adding 1 million policies, it's way worse because it will scare people. You know, today it takes me 1 day to deploy something. Tomorrow it takes me 1 month because I have to be compliant with all these kind of things. Why don't instead you start small, one step by step, and see how your company reacts to it? Maybe this is not what your company needs. Maybe it is a different approach, but I think the cool thing is the concept. You know, if you think that it's valuable to agree and respect each other, trust in a trusted environment, then I think this is the takeout from today meeting. Any other question? Yes?
Hi, this is Colbert. I'm from NatWest. Your data product, right? Can it be a mix of two different type of data? Like one is tables and another is API. What if they, there's an overlap of information between them? So not output ports. I'm talking about the whole data product is created of both these things. How do you govern this multiple informations, data as well as API?
Can you hear me? Like this? Okay. So I think that this is a different kind of problem because it's not a problem related to the data contracts that you set up, but it's more a problem of ownership. So who is in charge of what? So usually, you know, the definition, very abstract definition of data product is something that should be valuable by itself. So if you are just creating a data product to merge different things and group them together, maybe you're not adding so much value. And it really depends on your use case. But instead, if you have something valuable and you want to expose it in different ways, so consumers can decide how they want to consume from it. So for example, as I told you before, static data, near real-time data, data that is updated every 12 hours or so, you have the possibility by defining different output ports with different data contracts. But if instead you have a problem of saying, this data product is a mess, it contains too many things, maybe you just need to redesign your data product. You have to split it into multiple things. Each one that should be at least adding some small value or even big value. But that I would say is a different problem of setting up a data mesh. Done? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
If you wake up, don't smile. If you take We all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on